And now we get into our special program in association with Businessworld. We're talking about the economy now. We're talking about how we have taken baby steps in making sure that we come back in terms of our performance that will help the economy to reshape and regroup and rejuvenate pre-COVID days. The trajectory is resumed as it was before the pandemic in fact hit us. With the vaccine coming in, obviously the sentiment is going to be heightened, but at the same time, precautions and the way of life that has changed, that has been altered as a result of COVID-19 will still continue on for some days, perhaps even years. But this also means that in the last 8 to 10 months, we have uncovered, we have in fact spoken about some very successful stories right here on this platform where entrepreneurs and businessmen and leaders alike have taken advantage of the pandemic instead of getting beaten down by it. There are stories whereby which people have also in fact diversified, shed the old and embraced the new, and have been successful as a result of that. And we'll talk about this with our prominent guest. Joining me at this point in time on the show right here on NewsX is Sarvesh Shashi. He's the founder of Sarva and Diva Yoga. Mr. Raghav Himatsingka, he's the founder of Raising Superstars. Jarin Vinod, founder and CEO of City Flow. Abhijit A. Biswas, he's the CFA, Managing Director of 71 Capital. And last but by no means the least, Dr. Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of Businessworld. We've been doing this show for quite some time now, and it's been a pleasure doing this particular hour on a regular basis with Anurag and getting to know some of the best minds, the sharpest tools in India's shed. Sarvesh, let me start by asking you a simple question. We have spoken a few times before in the past as well. Yoga and healthcare, that's become extremely important after the pandemic hit the world. Working on yourself rather than working for yourself is become more important as your health involves more attention after COVID-19. Your health demands more attention after COVID-19, and yoga is a way to go about it. And even before the pandemic began, Sarvesh, you have had some international celebrities too who gravitated towards your venture. And if I'm not mistaken, Jennifer Lopez was one of them who showed interest in your venture. And from there on, it's been no looking back. How has the pandemic shaped your outlook towards taking care of business and taking care of yoga, and how have you in fact evolved in the last 8 to 10 months? Tell our viewers about it.
Nice to be back, Puneet, and nice to be back with an esteemed panel group, which is again led by none other than Dr. Anurag sir himself. Thank you for having me. I think one thing that the pandemic has taught us is to look at health holistically, which is it's no more about losing weight, becoming more flexible, becoming more stronger, but it is about three things, which we call it as body, mind, and nourish. So Sarva as a platform, we were a brick and mortar and a digital setup pre-pandemic. Of course, I think everything happens for a reason. Post-pandemic, we were able to accelerate significantly our digital platform, and we grew significantly and have grown and are growing significantly over the last 9 months. One thing that has come out very clearly is a lot of people who wanted to do body content a lot, which is lose weight, wanting to be more flexible, get better with regarding to their back, etc., have now started seeing they want to sleep better, they want to do a lot of guided meditations, they want to listen to sleep stories, and more importantly, their children want to do this a lot more, because a lot of the parents are encouraging children to start looking at health holistically. And we call it in three ways, which is what you do physically, what you think mentally, and what you consume, which is the food, which is the best medicine today. And one thing that pandemic has taught us, if you really look at it, it's not about, having medicines, etc., but things that is like have a shower twice a day, wash your hands for longer periods of time, make sure that you're clean, etc. These are not stuff that a pandemic needs to come and teach all of us. I think these were basic, but I think nature has its own way of saying things to all of us, and the pandemic was one. It is sad, but I do realize, and I've been doing yoga for the last 22 years. It's difficult to make me think in any other way but have a positive outlook. So I think people will realize how important health and holistic health means to all of them. So that way for Sarva also it's been extremely fortunate because digitally now we are present in about 150 countries. We've reached over 500,000 people. We've completed over 5 billion minutes of live classes. We were able to raise a significant amount of capital, which also shows that the market is hotter than ever in the space of mindfulness, health, yoga, etc.
Yeah, and if I may add, Vineet, you rightly said, your health has become your priority, your well-being has become your priority. And Vineet, you talk about sleep, and Sarvesh, you talk about sleep. We don't talk about sleep because sleep deprivation, insomnia, a lot of sleep-related disorders actually lead to a lot of other disorders. In fact, if we were able to just get people to sleep better, it would bring down a lot of inflammation in the body and hence lots of diseases. So just, the sleep industry, there is a sleep industry which addresses right from the mattress to devices to help you sleep better. Because if you can monitor your sleep and you can sleep better, I think you can eliminate a lot of diseases. I can tell you that I think sleep is a very underrated discussion when we talk about health and well-being. I think the quality and quantity of sleep both matter, and we should encourage everyone to sleep more. And with our phones, with the white light that we see just before we sleep, it does disturb our sleep. And I think minimizing your phone usage, which is very tough even for somebody like me. But the day I keep my phone in a separate room when I sleep, which I do 5 days a week, I do sleep well. And when I don't keep the phone in a separate room and I have it with me, I end up sleeping right from 60 minutes to 120 minutes later than when I intend to sleep. So really, mobile phones have also, in some way taken away our sleep. And in fact, if we can, as I said, if we can help people sleep better. I had a colleague who worked with me for 14 years and he had a sleeping problem and it would manifest in his eyes. Very fit guy, but he just couldn't sleep well. He had insomnia. He would not be able to sleep more than 3-4 hours. And clearly, and then I realized how big sleeping is an issue. And you're right, Sarvesh, that lots of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like Vineet said, Jennifer Lopez invested in us. And one thing when I asked her, like, what do you do to look like this at 50? She said, I only do 2 things, Sarvesh. One is I sleep very well and I eat very well. And that's about it. So.
Clearly sleep matters. And Sarvesh, again, your space is very, very overcrowded. I mean, you have a differentiated offering. I'm aware of it. But the space of well-being, the space of yoga, the space of fitness, and more celebrities are getting into it. They have their own patented forms of, yoga. Tell us, how are you differentiating your offering? I know you said you impacted 500,000 lives. What differentiates your offering from other offerings in the marketplace?
Well, I'll answer this question as 2 different individuals. One as Sarvesh as a yogi, which is our vision statement says connecting 7 billion breaths. And we very clear, we know we can't do it alone. So the more people come into this space, the merrier. We're very happy to collaborate in multiple ways and do it. And as the CEO and founder of Sarva, we're very focused, very, very, very focused on yoga. And if I can ask you a question, back, can you name one company, one organized player whose fundamental and foundation is yoga from India, taking yoga to the world? I can't think of anybody whose fundamental and foundation is yoga. And what we do, Anurag, is very simple. We are yoga for the millennials. We're the modern yogi companies, what they call Sarva as a brand, Diva Yoga is all premium, etc. We've got 25 different styles of yoga that we practice. And every day there is a different class going on. So if Anurag, you come into the class, what we kind of provide And what we promise, for the lack of a better word, is holistic transformation through yoga, mindfulness, and beyond. And we do it through a 5-step process. And for this to happen, we've got a phenomenal bunch of people who've invested directly and also supporting us, likes of Jennifer Lopez, Alex Rodriguez, in India, Malaika Arora, Aishwarya Dhanush, Shahid Kapoor, Shikhar Dhawan, and we have a lot of amazing institutional capital also that has come in. And if you really think about Calm and Headspace, who are the two largest kind of mindfulness players globally, I think there is this phenomenal opportunity out there for an Indian company. I mean, we're talking so much about Make in India, Made in India. There is nothing better than yoga that can go from India to the world. And we've been fortunate, and I must tell you this, where I'm publicly announcing this for the first time, that we've about made 1,400 hours of content in the last 4 months. If I have to give you perspective, it is 8 years of unique yoga classes, 3 days a week. And we've done all of this in 4 months, meditation and yoga. So the amount of content, both quality and quantity, that we've produced and that is accessible to everybody in an authentic format is supremely significant. Our average age has come down to 32 from 46. Our average kind of male-female ratio has gone, is kind of closing and narrowing that gap very well as well. Because typically yoga is considered only for about 40, only if you're, females do it, you do it only if you like it to be slow, etc. We've had people losing 20 kgs of weight in 4 months. We've had people sleeping better and so on. So I think as a company, what we do is we make yoga accessible in an authentic yet modern format. Our youngest member is 6 years old. Our oldest member is 92. So we make yoga cool, fun. But I do think that there are multiple people out there doing a phenomenal job. And I have huge respect and my salute to all of them, because connecting 7 billion breaths is not going to be done by one player. But if we can collectively come together and have a same goal and vision, I don't think people becoming healthy should become a selfish vision. It needs to be spread by multiple people.
I think, Sarvesh, you should do a free session for all the anchors and journalists. They have a very stressful job. So I think
by all means,
Vineet, you and me should enroll for that session that Sarvesh has just agreed to give us. But going to Jerin, 2020 was an unusual year. Entrepreneurs' mindsets changed. Sustainability became top of mind. Valuation became vanity. Entrepreneurs again started to value profitability. They started to value, revenue more than raising money. So give us a sense of when you do investing and when you are entering 2021, one, what are the sectors that you're looking to invest? And second, what is the change in the mindset of entrepreneurs you've noticed?
Thanks for having me, Dr. Anurag and Vineet. Just I think for more context, I'm founder and CEO at CityFlow, daily commute service based out of Bombay. So we built CityFlow as an alternative to driving your car to work, right? And at the beginning of obviously 2020, like you mentioned, has been a very difficult and confusing year to say the very least, and especially for our business, which was built around people going to work. Right. And of course, in March, when this happened, the first 1 or 2 months were a blur, and with a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, and no idea on how long this is going to be. But what we've seen is with time, the uncertainty and the panic levels around that has come down, and people have, gathered themselves. The teams have come together and tried to figure out what they can do, beyond what has happened to us. Right. I say a lot of things that have happened were unprecedented, had never happened before. It took time for everyone to come together and figure out what the next steps were. But basis what we've seen in terms of other startups, what they're doing, other founders, what they're thinking about, I feel everyone has looked around and found out opportunities. Like Sarvesh mentioned about Sarva moving digital. And there has been, obviously there are some businesses which do not have that liberty, but a lot of them discover limits of the team or how much the team can achieve during situations like this. So in fact, it's common for CityFlow and for a lot of businesses to go out, see what else the team can do, how the team can expand what the business could have initially done and actually achieved something that they wouldn't have thought possible in March 2020 and are in a much better shape today for that result. So in fact, CityFlow is also, and now, we are seeing our business recover. We've recovered 60%, you're back to 60% COVID scale, pre-COVID scale. And we are very, very optimistic about, the business returning right now.
Okay, Jaren, Abhijit Biswas, tell us how you pivoted in your business in 2020 and how are you preparing for a leap in 2021?
Thanks, Dr. Anurag, and Vineet for having me. So as an investment banker to mid-size Indian corporates that are at the forefront of this recovery and also to leverage the kind of change that we're seeing in 2021, I can personally reflect on myself that, in the year 2000, when I was a freshly minted MBA working in corporate America, I guess, the .com and the 2008 subprime crisis, hit us. And I think when we started hearing about the virus in the early part of 2020 emanating from China, I thought that it was only a matter of time before it hits our shores here in India. And from our perspective, we were, I would say, at the right place at the right time, because a lot of the sectors that we were focusing on while working on transactions for Indian companies were focusing on things which today in 2021, the way we see the market opening up is, at the forefront. Like, for example, we have been working with a lot of IVD companies, meaning intravenous testing companies, the RT-PCRs and the things which have entered the common lexicon currently. We have been working with companies that, produce the first testing device for the COVID strains. And also we have done and worked on transactions that have been where, the entire infrastructure around the vaccine development, and this goes back to also Sarvesh's thought process that, the Make in India yoga is, of course, a big thing, but you will be surprised to see that how India is also emerging as the epicenter for, the vaccine development, because India already has a existing infrastructure of this various pharma companies, vaccine players, who have partnered with different companies. So if you were to just put in things in perspective and in numbers, so Chinese vaccine companies have got only 5 approvals, whereas Indian companies, there are some 57 different version of the vaccine that's going to hit the market. And India is going to not only cater to the demand of the current scenario in India, but also, globally, it's well positioned to develop that. So I think the various industries that we are seeing, that's going to, as they say, the post-COVID scenario, so after the Great Depression, the countries which took care of their sort of the infrastructure around healthcare, the new policies, the government policies, as well as, the way they have mitigated the risk, because I think along with this, we are also looking at the various risk factors, including inflation, the interest rate, driven situation that we are seeing. So all of that is going to potentially drive how India is going to take a recovery back on the back of this COVID economy. There is a huge ecosystem and infrastructure that's going to get created in India that's going to support India's growth going forward.
Okay, Abhijit, good to know that, and I'm not surprised because really, as regards to both, pharmaceutical development and pharmaceutical production, India over the last 2 decades has been the nerve center for the world. So what you share is not surprising at all. And clearly, both in terms of our research, in terms of our scientific capabilities and in terms of our manufacturing base, I think we will produce for the world, and that will augur well for India's brand as well as creating, wealth for Indian entrepreneurs. Raghav, first of all, tell our viewers, how do you raise superstars? Is there a formula? You're too young to raise superstars, isn't it? But jokes apart, tell us, our viewers, what your company does and how is it pivoting to make an impact in 2021?
So first of all, thanks for having me, guys. And that's an interesting question that you asked. Just to give you a little bit of context, so since you're talking about the pandemic, when the pandemic started, I was literally out of a job. So I was running another company called Tracola. It was into transportation. So it's completely different from what I'm doing right now. And 2 months into the pandemic, we were forced to shut the company because of high fixed costs and revenue going literally down to zero. And we returned all the money to our investors, or we are in the process of doing that. And I was out of a job, I was stuck at home and I had nothing to do. But I started thinking about what opportunities are emerging from the pandemic and what can be done, right? And it's 3 years ago that I started exploring this concept of raising superstars. And I first did it with my own child. So I'm married, I have a baby who is about 3 years of age. And the concept is very simple, right? The concept is that every baby who's born into this world, they are born with infinite abilities. And when we say infinite abilities, we don't mean that every baby has great potential. What we really mean is that every baby has more potential than any other person who has ever lived on planet Earth. Whether it's Leonardo da Vinci, Picasso, Roger Federer, Albert Einstein, anybody, right? And it's only around the age of 2 years where something happens inside the brain called synaptic pruning, where every baby starts losing abilities that are not developed. And what I did was that I created a framework which I call the Prodigy Framework. And I use this framework to give exercises and activities to sort of awaken the hidden potential in babies. And that's what we do. Essentially, the way to think about it is that if you think about any person who is good in sports, right? They're always good in sports. No matter what age, they've always been good in sports. Person who sucks at music, who can't sing, they can never sing in their entire life, right? Because knowingly or unknowingly, these abilities were developed when they were a little kid. It has very little to do with genes.
Sarvesh, we've been talking about health, the pertinence of health, and how the idea of being healthy has been, if I can use this word, shoved down our throats because we have no choice but to be healthy if we have to save ourselves from not only the pandemic which is around, but future ones as well. But there's always this challenge, Sarvesh, of how to marry your health with the kind of technological advancement that is taking place. A lot of people, they want to be healthy, but they don't have the time. A lot of people want to be healthy, but they don't want to rely on apps. Where do we find this middle ground of marrying technology with health? Sarvesh, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I said very interesting question, Vineet. I think as step one, I do not believe that people don't have time to be healthy, right? That's like telling you don't have time to have a shower a day, which is going to be quite the problem if you start saying that you don't have time to shower every day. So I think wanting to be healthy should not become a want. It needs to be a part of your lifestyle. You need to, and being healthy need not be using an app, doing yoga, or going to a gym or anything. It can be eating well. It can be waking up at the right time, sleeping well, like Anurag was saying. It can be just going for very walks every single day. So I don't think technology advancements, trust definitely is a factor, right? You will not very easily come across your most trusted coach or your most trusted yoga instructor or your most trusted fitness instructor. It may take time. You may hit it off at step one. Like, I met my Guruji when I was 17 and we hit it off, and he's been my guru ever since. I'm 28, going to turn 29 now, and he's been my guru ever since. But it's not that everybody gets their quote-unquote coach, instructor, guru. But even if you don't get that, yoga, for instance, teaches you how to become your own guru. Buddha says be the light unto yourself, which means you have your body, you know what works for your body, what doesn't. You know that you can walk. I don't think you need anything at all, but come out of your house and go for a walk on a park. If beach is not accessible, go to your terrace in your house and go for a walk. Find a place, it is the first thing that is required for change in your day-to-day life is acceptance. You need to accept that my life is going in a certain direction, and that direction is not resulting positively. I need to change that. What is required to change that? Take 2-3 steps. As simple as eating dinner before 7 p.m. can genuinely change your life. Drinking 4 liters of water every day can genuinely change your life. Very simple things like this can make a significant amount of difference. Like Anurag said, 5 days a week, do not sleep with your phone in the same room. It is very simple. You don't need technology for it. You don't need any form of difficulty for it.
Sarvesh, is the idea of being healthy absolute for all of us? Can all of us be healthy? I'm asking you this question because even athletes today athletes today, Sarvesh, are having heart attacks. Saurav Ganguly, one of the fittest people I know, at the age of 48 has just had a heart attack. What is a person who's not been an athlete supposed to think then?
Well, see, again, very good question, right? Whether if you're going to be talking about Saurav Ganguly or really good athletes that have had heart attacks or have had health problems, that doesn't mean you need to stop from wanting to be healthy. Doesn't mean that Saurav Ganguly tomorrow will say, hey, I've anyway gotten a heart attack now, I'm going to start eating only oil food. No, Saurav Ganguly will come out of the hospital, understand what probably caused this, and if he's found out the reason, he'll work on it. If he doesn't, he'll choose to be even more healthier. He may, if he's probably having 1 cheat meal a week, I don't know. He may stop that 1 cheat meal a week. He may have it only once in bi-weekly. But that doesn't mean you stop from wanting to be healthy. That's going to be the last thing that a Saurav Ganguly or any of us will say. What life has to offer, it will anyways happen. That doesn't mean we don't take responsibility of what we have in hand. Just because, tomorrow, if we are all saying that, okay, we're going to be waiting for another pandemic to come and make us understand that, oh my God, we need to be even more healthier of our lives. I think I would only let nature and God save them, but I don't think that any of these should result in our acceptance of wanting to be healthy overall. Yes, healthy can be subjective, healthy can be different to different people. In my opinion, it is living disease-free. It is living pain-free, it is living disease-free. Or minimal disease, minimum pain, and kind of recovering faster, having a very good immunity, etc., etc.
And Vineet, if I may add to it, maybe Saurav Ganguly, because he was fitter, was able to deal with the heart attack better. Let's put it this way. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. Second is, as Sarvesh rightly said, what is preordained is preordained. I'm a Hindu. I believe in that. But clearly, a healthier lifestyle, good sleep, eating. I was, having a conversation with him, and he said to me, Anurag, if you want to be healthy, after 6 p.m., zip your mouth. He actually said it to me like this. After 6 p.m. don't eat, right? Eat before 6 p.m. if you just want to elongate your span of living. Being vegetarian helps. Hydrating yourself enough and walking. So the 2 biggest things that help big time is good quality sleep and walking. And of course, the right nutrition. If you just did these 3 right and some basic amount of stretching, you'd be healthy. But let's focus on entrepreneurship for a while. Jaren, as you enter 2021, what are the milestones you have set for your company?
So thanks, Anurag. What's most important is that 2020, while it was a tough year, also turned out to be a fortunate year for us because we did end up raising a series around a $7.5 million round this year, right? Which actually, while it's been a result of the hard work of the team, it's also insanely fortunate and it's something that we can't miss, right? So that's actually given us the firepower to deliver and make the most out of the opportunities out there, right? And when you think about transport, and that's where we as a team largely don't have general opinions in the market, but are very specific to our market. So the way we look at it, we are seeing that while remote working has been established as an option for people, it's not really a full solution. Right? We are seeing more and more companies.
When we have a choice, it may not stick exactly in the format it is. And I've said this 6 months before, that the productivity of colleagues is not the same remotely.
Absolutely.
Not for everyone.
And what's interesting is, in fact, productivity is, is a very important part of it. But the point is, we're not meant to be just productive people. We're meant to be far more than that. And how one of my colleagues says, he says 90% of my social life is my workplace. Right? What about that? I like my routine where I get ready in the morning and head to work. And I leave my work there, I finish it there, and I come back to work, come back to home, to my family. All of these are very important aspects. And we're seeing a lot of companies, like you said, even productivity, all of these factors are making companies, realize that we have all, we all have the benefit of remote working now, that there's that flexibility ki, okay, one day in a week, I can actually, finish off that work from home. But office is not something that we can fully dispense of, right? There's a very small niche of group of companies which could actually operate in that manner. So what we are realizing is, while people are returning to office, they're looking for alternatives. They're looking for safe alternatives, and that's where CityFlow gives them a very real option. Of course, the first reaction is, let me take my car now, but we are all familiar that gets tiring really quickly in Bombay especially, right? And in a couple of weeks, in 3-4 weeks. Everyone's looking for a safe alternative, and that's where CityFlow comes in. CityFlow has sanitized buses for these, professionals, and of course, after every trip there's a sanitization of the bus, and of course there's a compulsory masks that are mandated in the bus. There's a sanitizer provided. There's a third-party audit that does, a full audit for the buses on a random basis, and that gives people a basic level of trust in choosing CityFlow as their commute option. And of course, we're seeing a bunch of customers saying, hey, I used to use public transport, but I'm not so sure anymore. Right? So we're actually...
I'll tell you a funny story, Jared. I'm from Delhi. I'm actually from Old Gurgaon, but I live in Delhi for 20 years. And just before that, I started a company called Exchange for Media, and I shifted to Bombay. I took up a home in Juhu next to Amitabh Bachchan's home, and I started living there. And, I didn't have a car in Bombay. So, I would take what was called an air-conditioned bus from somewhere near Juhu, in Andheri. Actually, I used to be in Oshiwara before that. From Oshiwara till... I used to wonder, why do people have a life like that? After a while, I gave up. My co-founder based himself in Bombay. He was unmarried. And I said, I can't do this, The quality of commute in a bus is not good. I'm talking exactly 20 years back. I started my first company 20 years back. So, clearly you're addressing a pain point, and you're adding the assurance of, sanitization, in terms of a clean environment, because you rightly said the sale of automobiles has gone up because there is need for personal mobility. People want to move in a, kind of a controlled, sanitized environment. So if you can offer that, and I also feel once the vaccine is there, maybe the comfort level of people going to office will also get better. Companies will also encourage people to come to office. Right now, companies don't encourage too many people, except in manufacturing where you can't do much without showing up, is because they also want to minimize the risk of a colleague getting an infection. So clearly what you have is value, but the commute in Bombay, at least 20 years back, was a pain. Just want to say it for the record. I know all 4 of you are in Bombay, and I love Bombay, and I spent pre-COVID, I would spend 15 days in Bombay. But coming to you, Abhijit, what are the kind of trends you see in 2021? Of course, health tech, edu tech, e-commerce, all these are seeing large, interest and traction and large amounts of funding. Also, B2B businesses are seeing unlocking of value. Suddenly, they have also become very valuable. So give us the trends you see in terms of investors, kind of preferring certain sectors over other sectors,
Yeah, Anurag, so as a very confirmed Indophile, I mean, since I moved back from the US to back to my hometown, Mumbai, we have tried to focus and help entrepreneurs like our co-panelists, that are actually sitting here in India, doing some exemplary work, which are very differentiated from what, some of the Me Too guys are also doing. So obviously some of these models are clones of what the Western world or China has already done. But currently we are focusing on areas, and I would say this is not so much of serendipity than actual planning, that as advisors, we also like to work with companies, that are going to lead the charge. And the way I see things, there are two areas primarily where India has a natural advantage. The first one I touched on, which is the entire COVID-related economy. But then the other side of things where India has an advantage, right from the dot-com days, is the use of technology in furthering all your delivery. So whether it is in healthcare, using machine learning and artificial intelligence to, detect cancer or other, diseases, or to, for example, also the way logistics is today delivered. So I think Jaren will sort of appreciate that. The way IoT and some of the other technology are being used, just to deliver vaccines or people across India. I think the way the Indian companies are doing it, and thanks to Head Start, India had a very evolved vaccine distribution system, even with our regular vaccines. So that's going to help us. And so any industry, so each of these industries which are around this, so whether it's the technology-enabled industry to the vaccine manufacturer. So you need the vials, you need the testing, you need the reefer trucks. You see the automotive industry and all of that. So we'll require more than I think 20,000 trucks to deliver these vaccines pan in India. So all of these sectors that feed into it and the ecosystem are something that we are very bullish that India is going to take a leadership position, not only within India, but I think there is a very good chance of a global leadership on back of the entire things that have disrupted. And as the bombing of the Pearl Harbor, or post that, how Japan was rebuilt, post Hiroshima, I think this is a real opportunity for India also to look into areas where we have a natural advantage and leverage on that.
Okay, Raghav, clearly they say that in every problem there is an opportunity. I keep saying rejection means redirection. No means new opportunity. Next up, you shut one business, you started well, you're doing well, you have 21,000 paid subscribers. The word of mouth is getting you paid subscribers. And you're in an area, in India and everywhere in the world, parents would do anything to make sure that their children are able to realize their potential. So clearly you're in a nice sweet spot, so to say. Tell us, what are the milestones you set for raising superstars in 2021?
So, as we were discussing earlier, right, we are just a 4.5 month old company. And when we started, I literally started because I needed something to do because my earlier company had shut down. So we didn't start off with any big goals or anything, but fortunately, with the love of all of our parents and all the customers that we have, in 4.5 months, we now have about 21,000 paying customers. And we are getting a lot of love from all of them. There are a lot of repeat purchases as well. So in this year, I think we've not yet set out milestones as such. What we want to do is we want to take this opportunity and really reach out to parents all over the world. We already have customers from about 23 different countries. So we think that we are really doing something which is valuable not just for parents in India, but also parents globally. So we want to take this platform that we have already created and leapfrog into a product and offering that can really serve parents around the world. So we are expanding our team. We are trying to build a world-class product. We of course look for to partner with a financial, a venture capitalist firm, who can also who has like that global network, partner with different countries and product in various countries as well. So those are some of the goals. We have not set out some goals. We do have very, very ambitious plans given how we are doing and where we are at. I think I don't want to jinx any of it right now, but we are looking to build a product for the global market.
Okay, Radha, we understand you're a new company. You're having so much organic growth that you're only focusing on kind of managing that. But I want to ask all of you, we are 25 days away from the budget. What are your expectations from the union budget? What are your expectations from the finance minister, either from a macroeconomic standpoint or for your sector? Let me start with Jared. Jared, do you have any expectations from the budget, or it is something that you don't focus a lot on?
Oh no, the macroeconomic bit is the one that we don't focus a lot on. But in terms of the bus industry, I think, India needs about 7 times the buses that exist in the country, to compare with other countries like South Africa, Europe, Russia, and so. And what I do expect this year and in the following years is that, the taxation on air-conditioned buses, the taxation on buses itself, and the legalities around, getting permissions to run buses across cities, within cities, across states, be made smoother so that businesses could spring up easier. Right. That is an expectation I do have. I've seen some positive movement in that direction, and I'm hopeful for good news there.
Okay, we just have about 5 minutes left onto our program, Anurag. So we'll...
Abhijit, your quick expectations from the finance minister.
Yeah, so I think I would start off with the risk factors that I mentioned, and I think budget is the right time to address the fiscal policy that will later on also dovetail with the monetary policy from the central bank. But what I would say is that the spending on healthcare has to be at a very different level as a percentage of GDP, because I think that was one of the very big learning that we have seen. With the current inflationary pressures, because I think, around us, obviously, a lot of the input costs are increasing. So I think the way the budget can also prepare for the input costs and the manufacturing and all to give stops, but at the same time make it reasonable for the common man is another factor. And apart from that, I would say that the government roadmap or adoption of different ways to also bolster up its currency, which again, the policy making around the cryptocurrencies and all, I think is something that also I expect to be addressed at the budget level as well, because that's something that is a policy level decision, and the government has to be very much be preparing the central bank for its future policies to bolster.
Got it, Abhijit. One of the things I would say with IPOs or some of the large profitable unicorns or unicorns that are at least moving towards sustainability and profitability lined up. Also, there may be on dividend and so on and so forth, some more corrections may be required. Sarvesh, your expectations from the budget?
Well, I think one of the important things, like Abhijit mentioned, is definitely increase in expenditure on healthcare, especially for people who can't afford it, can't afford high quality healthcare. I do believe that healthcare and education needs to be kind of common and equal amongst everybody, irrespective of where people are coming from. I genuinely believe that healthcare and education needs to be super accessible to all. Secondly, this is of course a very personal expectation, is removal of GST for yoga as a service, right? I think today there is
That's
GST,
a good idea. That's a good idea. Yeah.
GST is applicable for yoga as a service, but at the same time, I do believe that if we have World Yoga Day, etc., the Prime Minister is promoting it so much. I do genuinely believe that we can do a lot of good if GST on yoga services are completely exempted and removed. Even both from a company standpoint and from kind of
Sure.
customer member standpoint too.
Okay, Raghav, your final word. Any expectations from the budget?
So I think there's an opportunity which is more and more seeming like we are missing out on, which is to create a China alternative in India as a manufacturing hub. And while there have been talks, I think at least for the last 3 to 4 years, and going back to Make in India, about creating that. But with the pandemic, we did have that real opportunity, which is seeming more and more slipping further away. Maybe we need to get that state and center level partnership going, where we are able to attract industries outside of India to come in and set up their bases here. The second thing I would like to say is that with the number of cases that we've had in the last few years of large manufacturing companies going into NCLT and bad debt and all of those things, there is a lot of caution that people are taking in investing, and in that aspect, a big push from the government towards expenditure in infra and in projects is required to sort of stimulate the economy, because once there is expenditure from the government in infra.
Okay, Raghav, we've completely run out of time. Let's get Anurag's expectations from the budget as well, and we just have a minute left, and then we wrap up. Anurag, what are you?
I think the budget will focus on these 4 things. In my view, it will focus a lot on public spending, which is a demand from every sector that the government increases its spending on infrastructure. So it will be an infrastructure spending budget. There will be a lot of focus on renewable sources of energy, so namely solar. There will be a lot of focus on giving a push to manufacturing. The expectation that income tax may be taken away may not be met in this budget, but it will be a social sector budget. It will continue the direction the previous Modi budgets have been, social sector budgets. And last but not the least, I hope and I pray that the spends on healthcare in the union budget go up.
All right, gentlemen, thank you everyone for being a part of this amazing show. It was insightful as well as knowledgeable. Being here and listening to all of you, thank you so much.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.